Welcome to the Get Emergent podcast. The Get Emergent podcast guides leaders to creatively strengthen relationships and improve performance of their leadership and those that they lead. We hope to provide concepts and ideas you can turn into pragmatic experiments to help you develop your higher potential in your work and in your leadership. And we hope you find some better practices to apply immediately. I'm Bill Berthel, and today I'm honored to have as my guest Troy Evans. Troy is a friend, a past participant in many of our programs, including Lead Forward, which we're going to talk a little bit about today because it has that component of a retreat. And he's a co-owner of the beautiful Vanderkamp property in Cleveland, New York. Troy, welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Will. I'm really excited to be here. Can't wait to start the discussion.
Yeah, I am too, Troy. I love every conversation we have. But today we're going to focus a little bit on retreats and the value of retreating. You have a vested interest in this because you own the beautiful piece of property in Cleveland, New York called Vanderkamp, which is a beautiful retreat center. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's something that has grown to be a passion, this idea of retreating, and it's mainly grown from Vanderkamp. So Vanderkamp is an 850-acre kind of forest venue out in Cleveland, New York that it really is a different world. It's only a half hour from Syracuse, but it's a property that we are trying to develop into this, retreat place for all kinds of people, for individuals just looking for solo retreat experiences, for couples who want to retreat and build their relationship, for families to do the same, for businesses to check out of their normal day-to-day routine and go to, work on complex problems and strategies, or just build relationships within teams. And even for like a wedding ceremony, the idea of a collaborative union of souls that's just done in a different way, but all centered around this idea of creating a real mindful and peaceful and place with a lot of space to act differently than you may in your normal day-to-day routine with all its complicated inputs. So that's the dream. That's what we're working on. And it's, so far been really well received. So that's where we're at.
It is beautiful. I think we've been retreating there with you for 2 years now, I think, in our Lead Forward program. And I remember the first time driving onto the property and, kind of stepping foot on the property. And I love the Adirondacks. I love the solitude you can get in that space. This is only 30 minutes from Syracuse. It feels like you're in the middle of the Adirondacks. It feels like to get that experience, I would have had to have drove 4 hours away. I only drove like 30 minutes away and got away.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we get that a lot. And then truthfully, like it's so vast and it's not a big place. We have 5 lodges. We have 20 different rooms right now. It's intentionally small.
Yeah.
So that you have that experience of like stepping back in time a little bit. You go there and you can wander through the woods. You're not going to see a soul, just animals.
Yeah,
But even the Adirondacks now are becoming crowded. I'm from the Catskills. They're becoming, pretty populated. You go on a hike, you're going to pass a lot of folks. And this is different. This isn't about conquering a mountain either, where the Adirondacks have this like, let's hike all the 46 peaks. This is more of like, let's just wander through the woods and get lost. And, there's a cool tree over there. Let's walk towards that. It's not I'm out to accomplish something. I'm out to conquer the mountain kind of place. So,
which is really perfect for retreating.
Yeah, right.
The purpose and the value of a retreat is to be able to get that time away and be a little bit more in contemplation, be more in reflection than doing. It's more about being, right? It's a being exercise more than a doing exercise.
You nailed it. And I think you kind of nailed the definition of a retreat versus like a vacation. So something that we're trying to clarify is, vacations are great. They are very valuable, but they're different than a retreat. But just, I think, hopefully something we can develop to be as similarly as important. Like everybody takes a vacation every year. Everybody takes a vacation. You get 2 weeks, whatever. You're going on vacation. Mm-hmm. And we'd like to, implement the thought in people's mind to like, no, I need a retreat every quarter too, which is something where it has a little more intention, right? It's not about going to Disney World and doing a bunch of stuff with your family, which is super valuable. But this is a different element. It is more about reflection, maybe. It's about, even with family, it has some, space to it. It's about collectively going to a place, stepping away, seeing what comes up for you. So that sort of escape instead of the typical vacation route. So well said. You nailed it.
No, and I like that distinction of like, I could imagine having been there, take a lovely vacation there, but that's not really the intended use of the space. It's less about doing, more about being. It's about self-discovery. I'm hearing in that the way you're describing it, Troy, like some self-discovery opportunities.
Probably it's really up to the customer. It's really, I think, to make it very generic, it's about stepping away from something, say like a busy world,
Yeah.
to step towards something, which is say, a relationship built or contemplation of self or just business strategy. So
Love
that
it.
kind of equation, it helps me frame it for myself. Like it's a vacation's really just going away. This is more about stepping away intentionally from something that you want to step away from. And it could be you want to step away from a relationship or a toxic something, like to
Sure,
step
sure, sure.
towards something else. So, that's kind of how we're structuring it and framing the wording around it.
So what have you and your team learned about retreating and retreats, leading the development or maybe the revitalization of this space? What have you learned?
Well, I think the cool thing is we have learned that this is a massive human need. So,
Yeah.
like when we started Vanderkamp, it was really going to be kind of like a hotel, just a forest getaway
Mhm.
where people, just rent a really cool log cabin in the middle of the woods. And that seemed attractive for myself included. I would like to go to a place like that. So we kind of crafted it. And, that was 3.5 years ago. And what our customer has been experiencing there and telling us all along the way is like, yeah, that's exactly what we need. But the why is becoming a little bit clearer. So like we started just running lodges to families and like couples. They would go there and have these experiences where they could just detox. And we heard the same thing that kind of you said, whereas it just feels different there. Like it just feels peaceful and calm and like all the things I'm seeking of that slowing down element are there naturally without us doing anything. We can't take any credit for that. It's just the trees there, the old trees, and there's
Mhm.
a big lake on the property that's all private, and it feels like you kind of just borrow the place,
Yeah.
for a couple days because you're not going to run into any other people, maybe a few others, but it really feels like it's yours and you're there. So that, listening to our customer, they kind of were telling us why they were going there, and it had to do with that. And then we got you guys, up there and to do a corporate retreat setting and a
Mhm.
leadership retreat. And the feedback we got from you, and since we've done, at least 50 to 60 retreats, similar
Yeah.
to yours since we started. But like this idea of we can really do the work here, whatever the work is for you, because of that element of like safety and freedom and space that you can't get just going to a regular hotel maybe or in your normal day-to-day office routine. It really feels like it's a place where you can, spark some wisdom for yourself or create this curiosity. So to answer your question, it's just something that our customer told us that this place should be, and since then it's become clear as we do, we read a lot about retreating and like, well, what's the value of it? Where does it come from? And I've come to the conclusion that it's like a basic human need that we have forgot about. So like if you imagine yourself seeing this, say, picture of a cabin on the Swiss Alps, it's this beautiful, cabin with a porch, and you just imagine yourself sitting on that porch looking over, say, like a vast mountain view all by yourself. That invokes a feeling that is
Mhm.
ancient. It's this idea of like, the hermit life of the Stoics, even the Buddhist, monk mentality of escaping to the woods to contemplate. Like this is old stuff, and it's only the last 200 years where we've gotten so busy with our inputs
Yeah.
that we've kind of don't do that as much, most of us. And now I think, especially for our customers that we're seeing come up there, they're seeing the value in it, and they're reminded, like, yeah, that's what I need. I need that feeling of sitting on that fictionary porch in the middle of nowhere. That's where I'm gonna really do some deep work.
There's so much in just that passage you just shared right there, Troy, that I want to tease into a little bit. So the one piece that really stuck with me you just shared is that it's a little bit like borrowing the space for a little while. And
Yeah,
there is something about the environment in which we're in that when we choose to retreat or we choose to perhaps contemplate, not do, but be and contemplate,
yeah,
that environment really matters, doesn't it?
yeah. I think so. And it doesn't even have to be super complicated. Like, for example, have you ever been to like a coffee shop that's like different, say in a different city or
Sure.
something like
Yeah.
that?
Yeah.
and you walk in there and it's like different energies, like different people. I don't
Yes.
know anybody here. It's like feels cool. Like for me, that's where I do some of my best work. It's like
Yeah.
I'm out of my element, right? It's like, oh wow, this is awesome. It can be as simple as that to retreat for 2 hours to a unique, inspiring, energetic, space. So for Vanderkamp, it ties into that. Maybe, there's an element there that has just natural energy or whatever the word is you want to use that like,
Mhm.
sets that stage for out of your element, out of your daily routine kind of space.
Yeah, and I love that. And I love that you shared the idea of energy, right? Because I think I've almost felt a little bit guilty every time I've borrowed space, whether that be at Vanderkamp or other places I've been able to retreat. I do take away energy. I get a new experience with energy. Something emerges, not to play on words of our brand, but something does emerge, right?
Yeah.
And I get to take that away with me. New ideas, new concepts. So while I borrow the time, I borrow the space, I borrow the environment, I do get to take away some pretty cool stuff from that.
Yeah, but that's what it's for. Like, if you think about the physics of it, energy can't be created, can't be destroyed, it can
Yeah.
only be transferred, right? So like
Yes.
energy comes into that place somehow and it goes out, and that's all right. Just like the sun, the sun's cranking energy down to earth, which is a fascinating quick tangent, but like how much energy do you think the earth uses of the sun?
Oh, it probably reflects and refracts more than it actually uses, right?
It's actually equal. So like you would think, like I always just think like, oh, we're using like, 20% of the energy and then it's going.
Yeah.
It's a complete wash. Like all the energy comes in and then it goes out, like back into the universe. So like there's
Wow.
no creation or destruction of the energy. You're
Makes
just
total sense.
you're
Yeah.
just using it and transferring it. So like it's similar to a place like that. Like it's there's no other way, right? That's it. You can't keep it. You can't keep the energy. Otherwise, the earth would get too hot, right? If
Yeah.
the
Yeah. Yeah.
earth kept all the energy, you would have major global warming. Keep too much, has to release it. So similar to Vanderkamp.
Yeah. So I love that. I won't get the same kind of energy I will get from being in my daily routine, whether that's pretty chill routine or if it's a complicated, hectic routine. Changing it up offers this opportunity for a different energy
Yeah.
to be experienced.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
I think you were spot on with emergent and emergence. Like I love that concept for, like whatever it is you get out of a place like that is
Yeah.
something emerges out of the new environment that is out of chaos or something like that. It
Yeah.
is.
An emergent property is the result of energy having an experience,
Cool.
right? So retreating is a different way of having an experience with energy, right? Which is,
Mm.
I think, really important to us, especially if many of us are into the. You said it really nicely. I don't want to mess up the way you said, but I think you said, however, we're managing all of our inputs. Like
Yeah.
immediately, I went to things are busy, my device, my phone,
Yeah.
responsibilities, right? Whatever those inputs are,
Yeah.
retreating gives us an opportunity to what? Reframe that relationship. What is it? What's happening?
Yeah, I think I look at that as an equation too. So like we would say basically you're getting all these inputs, right? A normal day, and then you're responding. Like that's how all of us humans operate. We get these inputs, we got to respond, and we move
Yes.
on. What we're trying to do is put space between the input and the response. That's where wisdom lies, I think, in my opinion, is when you can take all your inputs, but don't respond right away. Let's reflect. Let's like think thoughtfully about, and obviously you can't do this with everything, but the bigger things in your life, you shouldn't, my opinion, be responding too quickly, right? So you get this input. All right, now I need space to reflect and contemplate. So I put space between the input and the response equals wisdom. I think that's how I would equate that in our world. Yeah.
I love that. I mean, it's what Viktor Frankl said. If we create the space between stimuli and response, we have choice. I love the way you're sharing. Like that space is where wisdom exists or lives or opportunity for wisdom. I'm sure I've had that space and I haven't been too wise before, but I like the I like the opportunity for wisdom there.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And it's always, easy to say it's relevant in our times. Of course, it's busy times, right? Like, but it feels like a basic human endeavor. Like even back, the Stoic days of, Plato, those guys contemplated a lot. Like even in their, in just as many inputs probably as we did, they were different, they weren't cell phones or whatever, but they're political or whatever they were. But so like That's ancient. Like that idea of like creating this space is where the real good stuff happens. That's why you still talk about these guys. That's why you still talk about Einstein. That's why you still talk about Plato and Marcus Aurelius, Jesus, the greats of the past. Like they thought. And
And they
that's,
were living, your point is they too were living in whether it's complex or
yeah,
complicated times too. Yes, it feels busy differently, but it's kind of
yeah.
always been that way.
I think so. That's my opinion. Because you always hear like your parents say, "Oh, it was way better back then." And I
Yeah.
think like, they've been saying that from the beginning of time. Like I bet people 200 years ago wish that they lived 200 years before that because it was easier. It was less complicated, right? Like I've imagined that most people will kind of say that a lot. And maybe it's a fairly recent idea, but it seems like
Oh,
it's been
right.
around.
I bet you're right. I bet that's been kind of a testimony of the generations. What is it about this idea of complexity or, like it does feel complicated. I'm not going to lie. Things
Yeah.
feel kind of heavy.
Yeah, yeah, they definitely probably are. I think that kind of brings up the idea of like complicated versus complex problems, which you and I have probably talked about before.
Yeah.
But
Dig into that.
yeah,
What's the difference?
well, I would say like a complicated problem is something with an answer, like so like a mechanical machine, like a fax machine or a Ferrari or something like that. It's a complicated thing. Like I don't understand it, but somebody does.
Yeah, yeah.
Somebody knows I put in this input, I get this output. It's predictable. It's a complicated machine, but it knows its inputs and outputs, right? Whereas a lot of the problems we deal with today, and even in the past, are complex. So they're more chaotic. They're more undetermined, like the Brazilian rainforest, right? You put in an input, you get something out, you have no idea. Economies are like that, right? Like you don't know what these levers are going to do. They're so complicated. There's so many different inputs and different, the butterfly effect is another way to explain that. Like you don't know if a butterfly flaps its wing in Texas, it creates a tornado in Taiwan or whatever. Like
Right, right.
these are so complicated and so chaotic that there's no answer. And to go back to retreating is one of the values of retreat, whether that's a physical retreat or a mental retreat, is that's the problems you have to work on because you really have to let the answer emerge, back to the emergent thing. It emerges out of that chaos. Like you'll see weather patterns start predicting themselves and economies start, oh, okay, I can see kind of where we're going here, but you need to have those answers emerge for you, out of deep thought and out of like that contemplative approach to things. Otherwise, what we tend to do is like we treat complex problems like complicated problems, like, oh, I know what's happening here. We'll do this. That's a quick answer. Like, oh, I see, we've seen this before a million times. We did this and then this happened, even though you're talking about the rainforest, right? Like, no, that was 5 minutes ago. You're in a whole different world now. So to treat a complex problem like a complicated one is probably more dangerous, than not taking the time, and slowing down than the not.
So it's exactly the reason we moved our retreat part of Lead Forward from, this, our listeners might not. We used to do 3 overnight retreats, and we're now doing 1 5-day, 4-night retreat. This research better than I do, but most people need 2 to 3 days away before they're willing to start thinking differently. Right?
Yeah.
There's something about that dwell time in the retreat that then it's typically in the second or third day of the retreat, we're going to bring in very different ways of thinking for leaders, more both and mindsets. So we're not problem solving, we're managing polarities, right? There's some danger in treating everything like a problem to solve, where we
Yeah.
can start looking at different poles to manage, meaning not opposites, but complementary, seemingly almost paradoxical opposites. But we need value from both, and how we put that into our leadership might be something like, how rigorous versus how flexible. Instead of versus, it's and. As a leader, I
Mhm.
need to be flexible and rigorous, right?
Yeah. Right.
So
Like,
it takes some time in a retreat to get there, though, to be willing to think differently. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, you guys have always been great at that. I think we're helping people. I think that's for me one of the best things I've got out of working with you guys over the past is like helping me think differently because there's no escaping it. We get in our ruts, we get in our routines, the same thought processes, and never came up, like, or it was always or, say for you to use your example, there was always an or scenario and never came up. And you guys help people get that and in there, or, let them know that that's even an option. So like, I think it's important, especially as we, you and I both, like our place in all this, I think is to like really highlight the value of retreats for people. And I think for you guys, we need that side of it when people need guides for these things, like some people do, where I need help. What do I do on a retreat? What questions do I ask myself? What is the agenda to it? So I think that's where you guys are awesome. And I think it's really cool to see how you've developed your changes to your system where it was one day, in a retreat setting, and now you're going to 5. I think the value of that is going to be cool. It's going to be neat to see, because I think what you touched on there is some data and some analysis around the more time spent, especially nature, the better, basically, physiologically, your mind, your breath, your health, there's all these interesting studies that have proven that that's valuable. But then there's also just like, the mental escape to it, where I think Boyd Vardy, he's a lion tracker in Africa, he came up with this idea of modern civilization is 3 days deep. So you can't really escape modern civilization until you're gone from it for 3 days. So he'll go into like the outposts of Africa, and it won't be till that third day that he really gets in touch with the land. He really is intuitive then. He's really seeing the cycles of nature. So like that is important, I think, for a lot of people, me especially. I can relate to that. Like if you just go there for a day, it's cool, it's great, you get a lot out of it. But the third day, you're like, okay, I am checked out. So that's what you guys are hopefully going to tap into.
Yeah. And, part of that check out is to really be able to check in with yourself better.
Yeah.
Right? And be able to check in with other ways of thinking. And that sometimes it's a deeper way of thinking in which the way you already think. It might be better strategy. It might be better being than just doing. But yeah, that resonates really strongly with me that I hadn't heard that society is 3 days deep. I'm thinking back to several times I've personally either vacationed or retreated away from society. And it was that third day where it was like, I'm not reaching for my cell phone anymore. I'm not thinking about the problems or the challenges at home or at work.
Yeah.
I am more intuitive, like you said. That's awesome. Yeah.
What's cool is like I didn't know if it was true or not, but I've gotten to witness it with, like I said, we've done a ton of retreats up there now, and we've had multiple groups come for that long, 4 or 5 days. And then we had a group in October that came. It was a bunch of young, like entrepreneurial type company, and there was 15 of them, I think. They came for 4 days, and like the first day, like I get to watch, like, all right, we're coming in, we're all high energy, and there's some type A personalities in there that are, there's a little bit of stress involved, and things are, we got to get going, we got to get moving, right? And like, day 2, you can see, all right, we're slowing down a little bit. But like after that third day, oh man, I can see people's faces change. I can see like their conversations change. Like the whole pace is just drastically different after that like third, fourth day. It's pretty cool. And that's where a lot of the good stuff happens. Like I got to start writing these things down with permission, but like I've gotten to know a lot of these folks, and like I can just see, and I want to document that change of like, all right, day 4, here's what they were saying, at that point when they came in, and here's where they are leaving. And like the shift is pretty cool.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And like you, we've paid attention to and listened to the feedback of our clients in their requests to have a more significant retreat than what we've done in the past. So we're really excited to be, I think, retreating more appropriately, more effectively than, the overnights were awesome. This, 5-day, 4-night design is going to be much more impactful for our clients. So thank you for holding the space. Thank you for designing such amazing space. You're a little humble in your description of it. It is stunning. It's not roughing it.
Nope.
Not roughing it.
But you gotta meet people where they're at. Yeah.
But you can get into the wilderness with very few steps away from the beautiful facilities you've created there around the lake and on the property. And not to scare people away, it's an easy drive in,
Yeah.
Phones still work there, right? It's not scary. It's a beautiful way to step into retreating.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what we saw as our place in all of this. Like, there's plenty of beautiful campgrounds, and like,
Yeah.
just go to the woods, and yeah, that's a great way to do it. Like, I think that's not where everyone is. Some people, want to escape in a nicer environment. So like, we thought there was this need in this place where we have beautiful, inspiring indoor spaces that are
Yeah.
just untouched nature outside. So like, that's just something that we're trying to provide that doesn't exist in our area too much. But if your jam is to just go to the woods in a tent and like tap into and retreat by yourself for 3 days, that's so cool. That's awesome too. All for it.
Absolutely.
I got a question for you. So
Yeah.
one of the things that I struggle with, and I think most people might, is permission to retreat. How do you navigate people, leaders through that? Like, I can't go, I'm too busy, or my team would think I'm on vacation, or, that kind of attitude.
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's one we work with continuously. The two primary resources we are understandably defensive about in that space is time and money, right? Most of our clients, leaders, are looking at being responsible to their budgets. So there's a little bit about permission for you to spend your development dollars on you,
Yeah.
how that makes an impact and ripples through your teams and organizations. And then the time. The time could be, what do other people think I'm doing with this time? We'll empower you to share what you're doing with this time. Like,
Yeah.
have those clear conversations with your team. The why and the value of this time you're investing in yourself and how you're going to bring something back to the organization. And that time from family, I think, is hard for a lot of folks, right? Especially if we have a younger family or little ones at home.
Yeah.
It can be a little challenging. I think each of us as individuals have to navigate that and figure out, what that means to our families. We have designed in this extended retreat purposeful connection time. So you call home or FaceTime with home.
Yeah.
We don't want you totally unplugged.
Yep.
You love your families. You need to check in with the team at work. We get that, but let's do it intentionally. That's how we go at it, Troy. Let's be really intentional with the utilization of our resources, our time, our money, and our energy.
Yeah. I like that. I think it's that permission that we all need, because not doing it is possibly more damaging than doing it, right? Like, to those relationships, like, especially even family, right? Like, the going away adds the fondness, right? It adds that, the missing them. That's cool. It's okay to miss people. Like, but to not go away would maybe be, in theory, be more damaging, than going away. So it's like creating that permission. This is me talking to myself, by the way. But like, creating that permission, we will all be better for this. This putting space between input and response, we would all be better for it. And encouraging your other, family members or other business colleagues to do the same, right? Like, this is valuable. I see it.
And I think we can make the really clear request with one another to support us in that. And that's not asking for too much. And any one of us would reciprocate that in a second. Matter of fact, that's usually a pivotal conversation with many leaders. If you had either a really high potential or a colleague that said, I wanted to do this thing, how would you support him or her to do that? And they come up with 5 ways to support them right away. So how about asking for that for you? That's harder, right?
Yeah.
That's harder. Yeah. But how do we create that interdependency with one another by making really clear support requests?
Something that like shocked me the other day, I was reading it, but it was something along the lines of, wouldn't a good leader be able to go on a retreat? Like, wouldn't that be the definition of a good leader, that you have the trust in your team and the resources and the system set up that you can step away no problem and work on the big stuff, right? Like, that is the definition of a leader, right? So like, I'm telling myself that's what we need to remind folks of.
Absolutely. Troy, thank you so much. I know I can talk with you for days, but thank you for this time. Thank you for your energy and your expertise here.
Cool, man. I loved it. This is so much fun. Can't wait to see you again.
Yeah, same. And we'll do this again. We'll do a part 2 or another topic. All right.
All right. I'll have to read more books.
Hey, folks, and thanks for listening. We hope you enjoyed this episode and that you're looking forward to more. You can listen to a new podcast 2 times every month here at Get Emergent or wherever you listen to your podcasts. If you pick something up, you're going to apply to your leadership in your work. You want to know more about retreats? You want to get some more information on Lead Forward? Let me know. I'm Bill at GetEmergent.com. You can always reach out to support at GetEmergent.com as well. Thank you. Take care.